Vince. They're really cracking down on safety belts these days.
What's up, officer?
I'm giving you a ticket for committing an 811.
Safety belt violation.
Compliments of Barney Fife.
We never wear safety belts. We're dummies.
Weisenheimers.
He gave us a ticket.
Man's got to do what he's got to do.
Welcome to this edition of Lancaster Perspective. I'm Mike Miller. My special guest today, Lesley Greenwood from Job and Family Services. How you doing, Lesley?
I'm doing well, Mike. How are you?
Oh, I'm fantastic. It's been a long time. We haven't, even though we work in the same building.
Haven't seen you. It's like April, I think.
There's a lot of stuff going on. Just a lot of stuff going on.
Busy place.
It's and November becomes even busier for you as a social worker. You're working in adoption with families, and November is National Adoption Month.
That's right.
And I know you just have a lot of stuff going on.
I do.
So let's talk a little bit about your schedule in November. I know it's hectic anyway because you have one of those jobs that you work all the time.
We do.
You work all the time.
We
so,
do.
But let's talk a little bit about National Adoption Month.
Well, thank you for having us here to be able to talk about November being National Adoption Month. We're excited that we're here at the beginning of the month so people start realizing why they may see some of the signs out there recruiting for families. We have some signs placed all around the Fairfield County area that have our Fairfield County Job and Family Services logo, Foster to Adopt, Every Child Deserves a Chance is kind of the tagline we've had for the last few years. And I think we have 2 billboards also this month, for sure 1, but I think we might have 2 that also are kind of recruitment efforts and saying it's November National Adoption Month. If you're interested, give us a call. But our biggest event is actually going to happen November 10th. Where we are going to be honoring all of our current foster and adoptive families, as well as families who have adopted previously through Fairfield County Child Protective Services. This is our 3rd annual adoption event, and you know, the last 2 years we've just really been kind of tweaking some things and figuring out how we can get more people to come, and the people that are far away, how can we intrigue them enough to get them back. And this year we have the largest number of RSVPs we've ever received. We have over 100 people planning to attend our event.
Wow.
And almost 90 of those people are children that are coming with their families. So we're very excited to just celebrate and honor our families. And also every year, when we first decided that we wanted to have an adoption event, we wanted to kind of make some sort of an award to honor some of the community members or people that were important in our lives as adoption caseworkers, and also just recognize people in our community. Right. So this year we'll be announcing our 3rd annual Friend of Adoption, and that is Pastor Phil Manson from the Pickerington Nazarene Church. For the last few years, Pickerington Naz has just done an amazing job of supporting our protective services agency, whether it be through helping at Christmas time or having an entire Sunday devoted to recruitment activities and just educating their congregation about children waiting to be adopted. Just all the way down to prayer for children that are in placement. They have done an amazing job locally helping kids that are in need of adoptive placement. So we'll be honoring Pastor Phil as well as his church, and just wanting to give them our official thank you as our 2012 Friend of Adoption. So,
well, that is neat.
Yeah, we're excited.
Really neat. We're talking with Lesley Greenwood, social service worker at Fairfield County Job and Family Services, working with National Adoption Month in November. And you talked about an event coming up on November 10th that's going to be out at Cheers.
Chalet, yeah. We're going to have a nice little area, and we're going to have a magic show.
Merlin the Magician.
Merlin the Magician is booked and ready. So this year we kind of changed the vibe a little bit. it. The last 2 years, we did it more kind of like a reception, and then we would have some sort of speaker come. And we really noticed in those 2 years that although the kids enjoy being together, they don't exactly enjoy grown-up speakers. So we may all enjoy it, but when you're coming to celebrate children and adoption, we kind of felt like maybe we wanted to change the vibe a little bit and be more of a family-friendly environment. And I think the families caught the bug because we have such a large number of people planning to attend. So we're hoping Merlin, he's got big shoes to fill. We've got lots of little people coming, and we're all just going to get a chance to kind of socialize and hang out and be together. And it's fun as a social worker to see some of the families you haven't seen in a long time. Unfortunately, when you work with kids, when you're done working with them, you kind of think that they don't grow up. You have this vision that they still look the way they did the last time you talked or worked with that family. And when they show up and, you know, Sally Sue is 15 years old and is this beautiful young woman, it takes your breath away. So I'm really excited for tomorrow. I love seeing my families that I've worked with in the past. I love seeing my coworkers, all of us together, just in a real celebratory fashion.
Now, how long have you been in the social service business?
Started with JFS. I hit my 10-year mark this year. I started out in community services. I know. I'm pretty proud of myself. Can you believe it? Where did that decade go? And then I moved up to Child Protective Services. When I say up, I mean I physically moved up a floor. I don't mean I guess I should say it that way. But I moved on to Child Protective Services about 7 years ago. So I've been doing this for about 7 years and just feel very thankful for the families that we have, thankful for my coworkers, and thankful for my management team who believe in permanency and believe in adoption and work hard to help children who come from hard places finally get the chance to have a forever family after they have endured such horrific traumas.
I know just in the last 10 years, we talked a little bit off air, some of the stats that in the last 10 years, there's been over 250 adoptions.
Yes. Isn't that amazing?
That's amazing.
When I was preparing to come to talk to you, I stopped into my boss's office, Johanna Pierce, who has been doing this work for over 20 years. So talk about just a valuable resource and an amazing woman. She has finalized so many adoptions herself, as well as supervised a staff of people who have finalized so many adoptions. And she is such a gift to our agency because we can say, do you remember so-and-so? And she'll sit there for, give me a second, she'll say, and you can see her brain tick, 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 tick. And she can remember names and dates of birth, and you know, she's just such a gift. And to say that she has led a team to over 250 adoptions, I feel pretty proud to be a part of that team.
Absolutely, absolutely. In 2012, this year, there were 20 adoptions.
This year alone, 20 adoptions. We have primarily 2 gals that do most of the adoptions, Andrea Williams and Leanne McDermott. There's 5 total on our team, but those 2 ladies primarily are the adoption caseworkers. So they would be the bulk of those adoptions. But we also have myself and 2 other people on the team that have had 1 or 2 here and there this year. So way to go, Andrea and Leanne. 20 adoptions is a pretty awesome thing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And we had 5 kids that are teens that were from 13 to 16.
Yeah, and we're proud of that number because as most people may or may not realize, a lot of the kids kind of languishing in foster care are those teenage kids. Right. Those kids that have some special needs or some issues, and just age in and of itself often limits them from finding a forever family, because many families aren't prepared to welcome older children into their home, or this may be their only chance at parenting, so they are wishing for a smaller child. So unfortunately that means that some of our older children don't get the same opportunities as our younger kids. So when we can say that in 2012, 5 of those 20 adoptions were kids ranging in age from 13 to 16, that's a little bit of a pat on the back, because we love to see those older kids finding permanency.
And one of the things that always comes up is that, well, siblings, our brothers and sisters, but actually of the 20 children, there were 4 that were siblings, which is pretty...
4 subgroups this year of those 20 adoptions. that's another example in my recruitment tactic here today, which I always have to do because we're always looking for families. These stats speak volumes to what we need. We need families who are interested and kids that may be a little bit older.
Sure.
I'm not saying 17 or 18, but unfortunately 12, 13 years old are kind of getting lumped in that category of being too old. And then we need families that would be willing and able to be a placement for sibling groups. We have sibling groups of 3, 4, 5. I know
Wow.
it may seem really overwhelming for someone watching this right now to think 5 more kids, but we are desperately in need of families that could be able to help children stay together. We know research shows that when we're able to maintain sibling groups, when we're able to help kids keep those connections, that they have a much more successful time because they've already lost so much.
Right.
To be able to keep kids together is what we really want to do. So we're proud to say 4 sibling groups out of those 20 kids.
And if somebody wanted to become a foster parent or foster family, whatever it may, what do they need? Who do they contact? What's the process?
Excellent. Anytime you can call Fairfield County Job and Family Services Child Protective Services Division, and you can call 740-653-4060. It is an automated system. I apologize in advance. I know that can feel a little frustrating, but what you need to do is kind of follow that system to protective services or child protective services. And once you're speaking to a live body, you can tell them that you're interested in talking to someone in foster care and adoption. We do have a cover line as well, but that number is not one I can just give directly. It's in our internal system. So if one of us is not available, you can leave a message on the cover line that only the 5 of us have access to and that each of us cover every day. So even though you may not physically talk to someone in our department, if you leave a message, someone from our department will be responding to you. So the kind of the first step is saying, hey, my name's Sally, and my family and I, we might be interested. We don't know. And that's what we expect. We don't expect you to know everything. We expect that you're going to have questions. So what happens then is that we send a packet of information to you that looks just like this. It's a little folder, and inside the folder we have all sorts of frequently asked questions. What are some of the kind of legalese of being a foster and adoptive parent per the Ohio Department of Job and Family Services, the approval process, all of that. So it tries to answer some of those questions that families typically have. After you inquire and you receive your packet, sort of the next step is that you would then attend training, and all foster and adoptive families in the state of Ohio are required to take 36 hours of training.
Now, is that training where they have to pay a fee to do this, or is all okay?
Free of charge.
Free of charge. There we go. So we like free.
I'm actually the trainer for our agency. We do it 2 times a year. So we'll have one coming up at the end of February. We'll start again. So if you feel this call on your heart, or if you have questions, now would be the time to give us a call, because it could give you a little bit of time to kind of look over the materials and start to think and plan. It's a big commitment to do that training.
That's my question. When you talk about commitment, when some people coming in, do they understand everything, or is it more,
No.
okay.
That's the best part of my job. If I could train every minute of every day people interested in being foster and adoptive parents, I would. I like to tell everyone that training is a time of mutual assessment, which means you're figuring out whether or not you really want to do this, and I'm figuring out whether or not I think you really can do this.
That's
and we
fair,
talk about your strengths and your weaknesses. All families have both. It's a tough job to be a foster and adoptive parent. You need to really take some time to think. It's a life-changing decision. It changes your family dynamic. It changes the amount of time you have. It changes your resources. It changes how many people you can fit in your car. There are so many things we talk about to try to prepare you the best we can for the journey. So the training, I know people say, why do I need training? I've already raised kids. I know how to do this. But we're talking about kids, unfortunately, that need placement because they have been abused and neglected. And those children have needs that are different than children that have not been abused and neglected. So we attempt to prepare you the best we can on how to parent kids that come from hard places.
I'm sure that, can single people be?
Yeah.
I think that was a question that.
Definitely. Singles, couples, folks that aren't married but are living together in an ongoing relationship. All adult household members obviously have to have background checks and things like that, but let's say your great Aunt Martha lives with you because you're taking care of her. Great Aunt Martha doesn't have to come to 36 hours of training because Great Aunt Martha isn't going to be a caregiver.
Right.
But we need to make sure that Great Aunt Martha is not a fleeing felon. So there are some things that all adult members need to participate in, but primarily the adults that would be the caregivers would be the folks coming through those classes.
It's interesting. So you have families that are interested in doing this. You have children that are interested in doing this. And then you're in the middle saying, well, Family Smith, we think these kids would be good for you. And how does that all come together? Is that a...
That's a wild ride.
Yeah.
The training part and the home study part, I like to tell folks, is where you get to say everything about yourself, to write your family story in this home study. So honesty is always the best policy. If you're just telling me what you think I want to hear, not the best plan, because then I could send to you Johnny, and you could have told me that you were very ready for Johnny. But when Johnny gets there, you're not ready for Johnny because you forgot to tell me A, B, and C. So we talk about everything during the home study process, and that home study is used as the tool by the social workers to help match with the kids that come into care. So we look at your home study and we say the basics. You're approved for this many children, these ages, males or females with these kind of needs. I have this intake that has just come in. Unfortunately, the child's going to need placement. There's 3 of them ranging in this age. This is what we know about them. We look at all the families we have available and we begin going through the list alphabetically. Every single family is discussed. Are they accepting placements right now? Are they not accepting placements right now? How many people do they have there right now? Oh, they're in Florida right now.
How many families do you have right now?
I think right now we have a little over 40 families.
Okay.
So that's also a shock to some people. Fairfield County is the 3rd fastest growing county.
Correct.
And we only have 40-some licensed foster and adoptive families, with 149 kids in protective custody. So 149 children needing placement. We don't have enough families.
And when you say in protective custody, those are ordered by the court, those are ordered, you might want to explain how this comes, I mean, parents don't just walk in and say, here, take my kid.
No.
Yeah, okay.
This is a tough one because as a government agency, as a protective services agency, people aren't always real excited when they get a knock at their door. We're not, hey, come on in and have a cup of coffee. This is a huge invasion of one's own personal and private life. However, when you physically abuse or neglect your child, there are laws that protect your child. So there is an investigation process if there is a report. And if it is determined at that time that the child is not safe in the home, then our agency goes to court and speaks in front of our juvenile court judge and petitions whether or not we can have temporary custody, permanent custody, legal custody. There's all different kinds of terms. I think television sometimes makes people believe that I can walk in and say, hi, I'm a social worker and I'm taking your kids because you're a bad parent. I have no sanction to do such thing. Protective services cannot remove children without a judge saying it's okay to do so. There are times where families can voluntarily agree to do so.
Is that common?
Not as common, but in some circumstances where things may not be as severe, I would say that it's more common. But a judge has to say that he believes that the children are not safe in that environment, and typically orders what's called temporary custody at the beginning part of the road. Unfortunately, if parents or caregivers are not able to do what they need to do to make their homes safe for their kids, the agency then solicits the court for what's called permanent custody. And then there is typically a trial, and the judge hears all sides and makes a determination as to whether or not the agency would gain permanent custody of that child, meaning that the parent no longer has any rights. And that child is then available for adoption or finding that forever family.
And right now, so we actually need more families in Fairfield County.
Always.
We actually need more.
We need families here to keep our kids here. That's the other thing. When we don't have families local, that means we have to reach out to other agencies and other contract and private agencies and place our Fairfield County kids in homes in other counties. And that means those kids leave.
Now, can we choose what county they would go to, or do we just say?
We have
available?
contracts with private agencies who have families in counties all over the place.
Okay.
So they then offer a family based on the child's needs. So we say we would like for the child to be able to stay in their school district, but that's often very difficult.
Right.
So not only is the child leaving their family, leaving their home, leaving their pets, they often are leaving their schools.
Right.
They're leaving their neighborhood. They're leaving their doctor.
Mhm.
You know, think about all the things that happen when
Sure.
a little kid goes into protective custody. Even though their situation is traumatic and you would think, why would they want to stay? It's their family. It's their mom. It's their dad. Nobody wants to leave their mommy and their daddy. It's horrible. The more families we have locally, the better we can serve not just the children, but also our families that are trying to get back on their feet so their kids can come home.
And there is, being a foster parent, there is some monetary value that is placed on that for living.
Right. Reimbursement. I like to say reimbursement because, there's also a real negative vibe about a foster parenting. Oh, they're just collecting kids for a hot tub and a big screen TV. Like anything else in life, there are folks that are good at their jobs and there are folks that aren't so good at their jobs. But I can tell you that you are reimbursed to be a foster parent. And it's just that, a reimbursement. If you have 3 more children in your home, your grocery bill is going to be higher. Your water bill is going to be higher. How much does it cost to play basketball at school? What kind of shoes do they all need? What's it like when 3 little elementary schoolers go back to school? Have you seen those school supply lists? You have to get enough tissues for every nose in the classroom. So that's what the reimbursement is for. It's not so that you don't work and you can just house children. It's so that you can provide for that child in the best way that you see fit.
Again, if people are interested, contact you at 653-4060.
Yep, and ask to speak to someone in the foster care and adoption department as you're inquiring to be a foster or adoptive parent, or you just have some questions about being a foster and adoptive parent.
November is National Adoption Month, and we're talking with Lesley Greenwood from Fairfield County Job and Family Services. She's a social worker there working in adoptive services. And I know with all the activities going on, in addition to everything you're doing, we're getting towards Christmas. And we have all sorts of people helping out. And talk a little bit about Christmas this year. And I know there's a bunch of businesses that are helping out.
You
even have some little...
I have an example.
An example? The teacher brought an example today.
Yes, I did. When I first started 7 years ago, this whole Christmas thing, I'd never seen anything like it in my whole life. I was still a pretty young professional, kind of getting her feet wet in the world of social work. And I guess it sounds so ignorant for me to say, but Christmas, when you're not at home, Christmas when you don't have any of your family, Christmas when you're in a place that's foreign and different, Christmas when you don't have the ability to even afford to put food on a table to have a meal, let alone talking about gifts. So many years ago, our local McDonald's agreed to put Christmas trees up in their main areas near the cash checkouts areas of the McDonald's, and we would put, here's my example, our little red ornaments on the tree, and it would say at the top a child's name, Sally Sue, and their age, 1 year, and then in the middle of the ornament it would say different things that child needs or wants. And then on the back of the ornament it says, don't wrap your gift, please bring it back here in a bag and keep the ornament stuck to it. People say, why can't we wrap it? So I want you to think about Sally Sue waking up on Christmas morning, and that way it can be wrapped however it needs to be wrapped to be most appropriate for Sally that morning. So she is receiving things from whomever she needs to receive them from.
And I think the one thing that took me back when I first got into understanding about Christmas, these aren't kids that are asking for Xboxes, Nintendos. They're asking for underwear and socks and shirts and things that you just, it's amazing. It really is.
Every year, I know when I stop getting misty-eyed about it, it's time to hang up the hat, because as goofy as it may sound to someone on the outside, although this job is very hard, I see miracles every day. And during the holiday season, because that gift giving and that feeling of being kind to your neighbor is a bit more in the air, we have just been abundantly given from so many people in our community. Businesses, churches, individuals, families who call up and say, you know what, we're all older this year, we're not going to give each other stuff, we want to donate for a whole family. I just, the generosity that you see at Christmas time from our Fairfield County family is insane. And the McDonald's trees, the ornaments will be going up again this year. They hopefully will be up over Thanksgiving weekend. So all of you Black Friday shoppers, if you have a chance and you're stopping in to get a coffee and an Egg McMuffin, grab an ornament, and you can bring that present back, and it instructs you how the deadline that we need the gifts back, because obviously we need to then be able to allocate everything to everybody.
And just so we frame this in a way, just at the end of September, or during the close of September, you had 315 calls. For assistance, I guess, would be is that right?
Reports of abuse or
Reports
neglect,
of abuse or neglect.
potentially, yeah, for the most part is what those calls would be.
For the year through September, you had almost over 3,700 calls in Fairfield County.
Yes.
And you're just until now, there were 28 babies that were tested positive for toxology.
Yeah, positive toxology reports. We have, at the close of September, 149 kids in protective custody. The numbers that we're seeing really spike up are related to families that are dealing with drug and alcohol addiction. Our community is seriously afflicted with opiate usage and abuse. We have had 28 babies born this year testing positive for some type of drug in their system. And I believe out of those 28, 10 of them were testing positive for opiates.
Right.
Our opiate addiction is out of control. We have folks that are severely addicted, and we don't have the resources locally to be able to help them clean up.
So when we talk about Christmas, it's separate from adoptive parents. These are kids that, these 149 kids that we're talking about, that the Christmas trees and all the people that are helping out, that's what these kids are being helped for.
We kind of have three areas as we've organized the Christmas thing a little bit over the years. We have a team of people that literally start working on Christmas as the summer comes to a close. I mean, they're kind of working on it all year, but as we kind of are closing down at summer, we're gearing up for Christmas, because we need to get those donor letters out to people to give them ample time to say thank you for what you've done in the past. Here's an opportunity if you want to again. And just the reality of the number of kids we have in care, it's a huge task to start getting wish lists out to our foster families to say, hey, what do the kids need? What are they wanting? So one kind of category is that there are people helping families, parents as well as children who are currently involved with protective services. Then the ornaments that you're seeing, those are all children that are currently in foster care.
And those are at McDonald's Memorial on Main Street, Pirkington 256 in Carroll.
And also Walmart this year in Lancaster is going to have a tree. It's the first time they've ever done that. Thank you, Walmart. We're very thankful for that. And then there is also a small tree at the courthouse here in Fairfield County. So those ornaments, those red ornaments that you see, are all children that are not at home, that are in foster placements, that this is how they will receive Christmas this year. Then the other kind of section of people that we help out are our kinship families. The largest number of kids that we have in placement are with relatives or with people that have some sort of attachment to the child. Maybe not be a blood relationship, but a daycare provider, a school bus driver, someone who has a relationship and steps up and says, you know what, I'd like to be considered as a placement so this child doesn't have to go to foster care. So we are serving around 61 kinship families this year, just helping them out, because many of those folks are grandmas and grandpas raising their grandkids on a fixed income. So any little help is helpful. It's folks that primarily are not receiving monetary assistance at all for having the child in their home. For those that are receiving monetary assistance for the child being in their home, it is a very, very small amount of money. So our kinship coordinator, Jenny Ruff, is probably one of the most amazing women that I've ever met. She's an absolute dear, and she's got some North Pole connections, and I've never seen somebody shake the tree like Jenny Ruff. She is amazing, and she is making it happen for those families and helping kids be able to have a nice, happy, healthy Christmas.
Leslie, we just have a few minutes left, and I know people, you talked about Jenny Ruff and being in the kinship, Barb Clapham. If somebody wanted to donate to help these kids out, how should they do it to get a hold of it?
I think the best way probably this year would be to contact Barbara Clapham, and her number is 652-7689, and that's area code 740. She's kind of our Christmas crew leader, I would call her, and she can allocate the call to whomever she needs to based on what you're saying. So some ways to help if you are interested in donating. If you don't feel like the ornament is your thing, obviously monetary donations are accepted. The reason those are helpful are because in the final crunch, when it's like T-minus 2 hours before everything closes down, and Sally Sue is a new child that's come into protective custody and has nothing. We can go with that cash and go out and purchase something. Gift cards are also very helpful. That's because our older kids often, folks don't always want to volunteer to help the teenagers. The little ones seem to be taken pretty quickly because folks love to shop for toys and little kids stuff. So gift cards help with the teenagers because obviously what they ask for can be a bit more expensive, and those can help us with those costs. So gift cards, obviously monetary donations, or if you just want to know how to get in touch.
Well, Lesley Greenwood, we do appreciate you coming in, talking about National Adoptive Month here in November, and also the Christmas program. Again, if you have any questions about either one, you could call just 653-4060, and they can direct you in the right place.
Yes, sir.
And again, we appreciate you coming in, and appreciate all the effort, everything that you do.
Thank you.
I get to see it every day, what you guys do, and it is amazing. It really is.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to this edition of Lancaster Perspective. I'm Mike Miller, and remember, until we meet again, let's make a difference.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds.